These are the messages that Bernie is trying to communicate, and I think that resonates, but they just can't see past the bubble of that right-wing MAGA, hateful message that has literally coalesced them, which the Democratic Party has allowed to happen because they never addressed any of those issues for those people either.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up.
Seems to me that before we can effectively determine the best way forward, it's important to do what is very rarely done in Congress or in the corporate media. And that is to have a frank discussion about the economic and political realities facing our country. So let's do something really radical. You ready? Yeah. Let's tell the truth.
Hi, I'm Tina-Desiree Berg reporting for Status Coup News. We are at the Las Vegas, Nevada, Bernie Sanders AOC Fight the Oligarchy event.
Yeah, I mean, seeing events like this today give me hope. It's hopeful to see people coming out and supporting, the message that Bernie, I know we always focus on Bernie, but it's the message, it's the policies. And it gives me hope to see, the encampments and the students at Columbia, that there is opposition, there is resistance to this fascism. It's not the Democratic Party, it's the kids in the street at the universities. Right now, they're the bravest people that I know, besides, Palestinian people, obviously, are the bravest people.
And you're a member of Jewish Voice for Peace, correct?
Well, I go to events and I pay them, I think I pay a due, monthly due. But yeah, I'm Jewish, and as a Jewish American lifelong Democrat, I've been disappointed by this party. I'm disappointed by the Biden administration, by what Trump is doing, and Zionism in general, what Israel is doing.
Now we're looking at a situation where Chuck Schumer is obviously just rubber stamping Trump stuff. Gavin Newsom is in California having Steve Bannon on his podcast for some reason. How do you feel about all that?
I feel like Democrats, when we lose, we tend to not be sure what to do next, and so you've got all these voices there saying some people need to run to the center, some people are saying we need to run to the left. I think, like you said, we need to stand on the issues that actually affect people's lives, and a lot of establishment Democrats are very good at walking that line of sounding like they're fighting for you, but we know that they've got lobbying interests and things that are keeping them from really fighting for things like fair wages and housing and education and healthcare. So I think that's why Bernie has stayed as like the standard bearer of like someone who's genuinely fighting for that, and so is AOC and Stephen Horsford, who heard from today. I genuinely wish some of the older leadership would just step back. I think a lot of it's just the older Democrats and that are having a hard time letting go of power, and just they think that no one but me can do it, and when it's like, no, there's a whole conga line of people behind you waiting up to step up for leadership. So, which reminds me of something I wanted to say earlier, that is encouraging anyone listening to this and watching this, if you're frustrated just sitting at home, like go and get up and go to an event, go to a meeting, and see what you can do. Because I literally, when I moved to Arizona, I started going to Democratic Party meetings. I became a precinct committee member, and they wanted me to run for leadership. So, because there was a bit of a vacuum of people willing to do it. So you don't know where there's an opportunity to step up and lead, if you don't get out there and put yourself out there. So I've also been saying, if you don't like the Democrats you're seeing, then be the Democrat you want to see, because that's absolutely possible within your power. So, but no, I think we're experiencing the things getting worse before they get better right now in the party. So,
well, it's a false distraction, blaming everything that we're going through on immigrants, and Islamophobia. And queer phobia and transphobia. Basically, they have the same needs we have. That they are living paycheck to paycheck, don't have enough to survive a $500 emergency. These are the messages that Bernie is trying to communicate, and I think that resonates. But they just can't see past the bubble of that right-wing MAGA, hateful message that has literally coalesced them, which the Democratic Party has allowed to happen because they never addressed any of those issues for those people either.
The issue that we're dealing with in America now is not just income and wealth inequality, and it's not just the stress that working people are feeling. Today in America, we are the only major nation on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a human right. Despite spending twice as much per capita. You got it? It's not that we're not spending enough money. We're spending a fortune, $14,000 for every man, woman, and child. Despite that, 85 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. All right, raise your hand if you have a high deductible. Ha! There it is. In America today, 60,000 people die because they don't get to a doctor on time. Got it? And the reason is, and I talk to doctors, people walk in much sicker than they should be. And they say, doctors say, well, why didn't you come in here when you first felt your symptoms? Answer is, I had no health insurance or I had a high deductible. Health care is a human right. And together we are going to stand up and finally pass a Medicare for all single-payer program.
I live in Yuma, Arizona, which is down on the border,
Yeah.
and it is the only place where any section of wall actually got built. And so you had, protests, you had people going in, and my mom and parents actually volunteered to help with migrants, so we kind of, got a taste of it firsthand. And it's just ugly the way people talk about it because, a vast majority of these people are fleeing their homes and their situations as they're not safe where they're from, and no one picks up and moves their whole life because they just wanna. So it's just, I think it's shameful the way we treat people that are just seeking a safe place to raise their family. But at the same time, the border is also extremely under-resourced. We don't have enough lawyers and judges and resources to facilitate the people that have legitimate asylum claims. And so, the Republicans and Tea Party and Yuma would always, scream, "We're being invaded," which is a military term. There's no tanks or anything. Yeah, it's no, you don't get to claim that. So it's just a shame that we're just demonizing people that are, coming for safety. But there is a security issues. There are nefarious actors that come through. I mean, there's the guns that flow across the border to Mexico from here. So I always say, you want to be mad about the cartels, be mad about the loose gun regulations that allow them to be armed with American weapons. So, people feel afraid of all sorts of things, and I think that's for me my political litmus test is is someone trying to get you to be afraid of something, and why, and for what end, and what can they use your fear then to weaponize that? So, these people are the descendants of natives and the people that were here long before people like us got here.
And a certain ugly kind of politics, lying to and screwing over working people so that they can steal from our health care and Social Security and veterans care to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest and bailouts for their crypto billionaire friends. There's a word for this: corruption. And seeing all of this stack up, how overwhelming and brazen and selfish this all is, and the constant barrage of headlines and phone notifications pinging all day long, it's enough to make even the best of us give up. It's enough to make anyone want to give in to despair.
I remember there's a story of when Balfour signed off on the Balfour Declaration in 1917. The only person who dissented was a Jewish member of parliament, Montague, I think was his name. So sometimes it takes our own people to call out the lies.
Your government should fight for your ability to keep an affordable roof over your head. And finally, I believe our elected officials should take on abuses of corporate greed everywhere they find it. We must get big money out of politics and make clear that our country is not for sale. And that is why I don't and never will take money from lobbyists and corporations. Fox News and the right wing will have you believe that these American values are something out of the Communist Manifesto. That we believe these things because we went to college and read them in a book somewhere. But let me tell you, Fox News, I don't believe these things. I don't believe in healthcare, labor, and human dignity because I'm a Marxist. I believe it because I was a waitress. Because I scrubbed toilets with my mom to go to school. Because I worked double shifts to keep the lights on. And because on my worst day, I know what it feels like to feel left behind. And I know that we don't have to live like this anymore, Las Vegas. We deserve better than this, Las Vegas. And despite the chaos that surrounds us at the moment, I want you to know that we are closer to that world than we think. This isn't just about Republicans. We need a Democratic Party that fights harder for us too.